Hey there, Jenna from the Intern Hustle here, and I am trying something new with this video. Could this become an interview series with a variety of inspirational guests? We'll see. But the purpose of this video is to introduce you to one inspiring college student who is using his skills and creativity to grow his network and carve a pretty cool path for himself. Wade Fletcher is a first-year computer science and finance student at Indiana University and the creator of Covintern.com. With so many internships being canceled as a result of COVID-19, students are now looking to remote internships as a way to gain valuable experience this summer. Wade was in need of an internship himself, so he built Covintern to aggregate remote internship opportunities and connect students with employers. In this interview, I chat with Wade about the positive response that Covintern has received since its launch. It went viral on LinkedIn. Plus, Wade shares insights from his own journey as a college student, intern, and entrepreneur. Check the description below this video for links to Covintern and other ways that you can stay in the loop on what Wade's up to. Hit that like button if you're excited for this interview with Wade today, and don't forget to subscribe for new videos every single week on this channel. Wade and I would love to hear from you in the comments. Tell us what your biggest takeaways are after watching this interview. Can't wait to read them. Hey there, I'm Jenna Ryan from the internhustle.com, and this is Initiative Muscle Monday, helping you to start each week with an intentional step toward a successful future. Let's do this. Hi, Wade. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And I know it has been a busy couple weeks for you as you wrap up final exams from your freshman year at Indiana University. And I kind of would just like to start there. I mean, being a college student right now, there's a lot that students have had to adapt to with coronavirus pandemic and everything that's been going on. And so what has your personal experience been as a college student adapting to all of this and the recent changes?
Sure. So obviously, moving to online education and doing everything we had been doing in classrooms, in the library, and everywhere else at home is a pretty significant shift. But I think most schools, and IU in particular, have been really forgiving in, um, not letting students, not putting students in situations where they can hurt themselves long term, or where this situation will hurt them long term with pass fail grading and everything like that. And I think it's obviously not what I expected, but I wouldn't say I've had a bad experience. Um, hadn't
That's
hadn't been
great.
too bad so far.
That's great. And you're probably, just as used to and maybe sick of Zoom stuff as the rest of us are working from home and things these days. I think we're
Yeah,
all way too familiar with the Zoom setup.
yeah. I was fortunate with school that most of my lectures are pre-recorded. That you get
And that's
3 hours
great.
of lectures that you can break up over the week. However, and for certain professors, you can play them at 1.5 speed, and that's been pretty convenient. And that's been a great way to do, honestly, a better way than sitting in a lecture hall for some math classes and stuff where you want to be able to pause and say,
Yeah.
do I understand this?
Yeah. So some silver linings in all of it a little bit and just better ways for you to kind of adapt your own learning styles. Just sounds pretty cool. So I'd
Hmm.
like to kind of, obviously get to know you a little bit better, let people watching this get to know you a little bit better. And I think a fun way to do this, given that this is the intern hustle, and I often talk about interviewing and things like that with students, is I kind of want to tee it off as like, if you were to pretend, I noticed from your LinkedIn profile that one of the things you have an interest in is potentially maybe working as a technical product manager someday. And with that, let's pretend that you've been applying for internships with some tech companies out in San Francisco, some big tech companies, and you got an interview to be a technical product management intern for one of these companies. And it's been a competitive hiring process, but you got the interview. And so you sit down for this interview and they say, tell me about yourself. What would you say?
Let's see. I would say I'm Wade Fletcher, a student from Columbia, South Carolina at Indiana University. I'm completing dual degrees in computer science and finance, to give myself a knowledge not only in the technical side of building a product, but also in the go-to-market side through the business degree. I've launched a couple of successful ventures in the past. ScoreTwo Media is a company I founded when I was in high school that led me to be named the South Carolina Young Entrepreneur of the Year in 2019. And then when I was in college this year, I started Covintern.com, an aggregator for remote internships for students that got upwards of 80,000 users in its first couple weeks. And I'm passionate about creating products like that people will use and that fill a need in the market. And I'd like to come do that at your company.
That's great. You passed. No, I think it's awesome. And a lot of what you just talked about is what we're going to cover today in this discussion. So it's perfect.
Sure.
It tees me up well. Before we even get into some of those things like Covintern and your own internship experience, which are the kind of meat of this discussion today, I just like to know, with everyone I talk to, what was your college decision-making process like? And being a, high school student in South Carolina, what made you decide to choose Indiana University?
Right. So I knew I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do something in business or tech. And once I got into kind of the latter half of my high school years, I realized it was possible for me to do business and tech. And there are a lot of fantastic programs at University of Texas and Wharton and places to do a structured program for a dual degree in business and computer science. I was not a stellar high school student, and those programs were not available to me, but IU was really generous with giving me credit for the IB diploma and the AP classes and everything I did in high school, such that I just, the hours just work out such that I can do 2 degrees worth of hours in 4 years and still graduate normally. And that was what drew me to IU.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. And I know I'm fellow Big Ten, so I love getting to chat with people from the Big Ten. And I'm sure, there's a fun, for people who aren't familiar with the Big Ten, there's just such a fun atmosphere on college campuses in the Big Ten, and, all the different sports culture and everything that comes along with it too, which is great. So I think you made a good choice. From your LinkedIn profile, as well as what you've just been sharing with us today, you are doing 2 degrees, so computer science and finance, which is super impressive. And I think one of the things that I want to know, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this want to know, is what's your secret to managing your time with all of that? Like, do you have specific time management hacks or strategies that you use to kind of juggle dual degrees while also doing all of the impressive amount of student activities and extracurriculars that you also are a part of?
Yeah, so I would, the first thing is in high school doing that IB diploma, I had, 8 classes simultaneously, like most high school students. But at that IB level, they all have, college tier writing requirements and project requirements, and the breadth of content is similar to what I've seen in college classes. And so going to college, where even if I'm taking, a full 18 or 20 hours, that's still a couple courses fewer than what I was managing in high school. And to that, I think, productivity and managing that is not something that's going to be solved by any kind of hack or tool or system. That it's a muscle that you have to exercise and work out. But once you've kind of conditioned that muscle, then it's automatic. Regards, I really don't have a great productivity system, to be honest with you. I think I've just been, kind of been going hard for a while, and it's.
Yeah, I think, what you're saying a little bit is like sometimes when you have so much going on, you have no choice but to just get it done, which can be a blessing, and I felt the same way in college. I was involved with cheerleading. And so it was, a varsity sport at Ohio State, and there was a ton of stuff going on, and we didn't have time to just sit around in our dorm like some students did and, try to figure out when to get our homework done. We just had to get it done when we found, the 30 minutes in between practice and class and games and all those things. So I can relate to what you said about just having so many things. You just figure it out, kind of build the muscle, which is great. So I'd like to talk about internships a little bit. This is the intern hustle. And so, in reviewing your LinkedIn profile, I did notice you have some internship experience already. Can you talk to me a little bit about, what internship or internships have been a part of your intern hustle so far and how you went about getting those internships?
Yeah, so I interns last summer at Wallach Investments, which is a registered investment advisor in my hometown of Columbia. And that internship I found in kind of a weird way. Well, maybe not weird, but my father shared an office just by chance in like a co-working space many years ago when those were barely a thing with Daniel Wallach when he was starting this firm. And they had known each other and been friends and kept in touch. And he connected me with Jake Wallach, Daniel's son, who's a junior portfolio manager at the firm, just as kind of a, like, this is somebody you might want to know, get to know this guy, not with the intention of having an internship or anything, because an internship program didn't exist at this firm and doesn't exist at this firm. But Jake and I really, we got lunch, I think, and really hit it off. And I impressed him, and he went to bat for me to create that internship program for me so that we could keep working on stuff through the summer. And that was a different experience since I didn't have an intern cohort. It was almost more like being a temporary employee, if that makes sense, since I didn't have intern peers at that company, and it's employees in the single digits. So it was kind of, I don't know, different than a lot of other internships I think of.
Did you like that? Having that experience?
No, I had a great time and I liked it. I am eager to experience a larger scale internship where I have, an intern cohort. But I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Oh, so I also spent some afternoon time at the state treasurer's office in, here at the state capitol in Columbia. Did more typical old school interny things, making copies and binding books there, getting lunch. And that was definitely a different experience than Wallach, but another one that I wouldn't trade for anything. At Wallach, though it was not really what I was hired for, my responsibilities pretty much ended up being, software engineering intern, which I didn't expect at this, tiny investment firm. But once, Jake and I kind of figured out where those skills would make their workflow more efficient and make their job easier, and make their clients some money, we spent a lot of time on that over the summer.
That's great. And one of the questions I was going to ask you next is, what's an unexpected skill that you learned from this internship? And I would say you didn't learn that necessarily at this internship because you obviously had some of that skill going in, but just cool that they were able to utilize you in a different way than you thought, and had anticipated what this experience would look like for you. If you did have to say like something unexpected that you learned and got out of this, what would it be?
Yeah. So I fully expected to be doing normal kind of investment research analyst kind of jobs. And by the end of the summer, Jake and I were had gotten pretty close, and we were going on sales meetings together. And I did not expect that I'd, get to see and experience that, and get that close to their clients. But that was really cool to see that from that perspective, and how they kind of, an investment manager kind of wines and dines and pitches and brings in client money.
Yeah. I think one of the greatest experiences you can get from an internship is exposure to client meetings and different things that are outside of the actual office setting. I think so many times interns, students going into an internship think, I'm just going to be in the office doing, specific tasks and projects. But when they involve you in that way, I think you're just exposed to so much more in business and in general that you otherwise wouldn't be, in a traditional learning setting. So I think that's great that they exposed you to that and invited you along. And I also love just, going back to what you said about how you got this internship. It wasn't an internship that existed when you started, and it was something that you hit it off. You had a good, warm introduction into this company. You hit it off with them, created a relationship, and then ultimately created an internship for yourself, which is just pretty cool and timely as well, I should say, because my video I actually put out on the YouTube channel last week was all about how to ask for an internship. And it was about creating those relationships and, really getting to know people and building the relationship to then kind of backdoor ask, your way into an opportunity that may have not existed before. So I think that's so cool that you're a real live example of it actually happening, which is great for other students to hear and kind of get to experience through, your own experience. So I know you do have an internship coming up this summer, software engineering internship with a company called URX. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you got that internship?
Sure. So after, so my intentions with Covintern were basically that I, obviously saw the need in the market that, I did not still have an internship. My roommate had his internship canceled, and I think he has a new one as of this morning, but
that's great.
Internships were not the same as they were a month ago. And I needed a good, kind of project to show off to recruiters of this is me and this is what I can do. And I was brainstorming what project can I build that's I can do in a week or so that solves this problem that will also lead to me hopefully meeting a bunch of recruiters. And a jobs board is what I came up with and what I built. And in the couple weeks after that post went viral on LinkedIn, I had 2 or 3 Zoom meetings a week with various who's who in the virtual remote internship and recruiting scene. And one of those was Wahab, the founder of URX, who basically, excuse me just a second, who reached out to me, and we talked about how we could work together and kind of form that relationship, and that eventually turned into an offer for an internship.
It's so great, and just such a feel good story about how your creativity and like desire to kind of teach yourself something, build something, and then all the opportunity that came out of it, not just for you, but for so many other people, which we're going to get into in a second. But before we do, I do want to learn a little bit about URX. And I know you haven't started yet, but what can you share with me about URX as a company and what you think you'll be doing with them as an intern?
Right. So URX is a recruiter community for, right now it's for, mostly recruiters in tech. And they organize so their focus is providing resources and tools to those recruiters. Those resources come in the form of, obviously fantastic networking opportunities, where members of URX are going to bat for other members to find them new recruiting jobs after they've been, laid off or whatever in the midst of this crisis. Their annual conference, URX Forward, is happening today and tomorrow, normally in San Francisco, but virtually, obviously, this year. And then that tools component is where I kind of come in. And in that software engineering role, I'll be working with recruiters at all the big name companies you can think of to build some software tools that'll hopefully help them recruit candidates in a more cost effective and kind of with a greater emphasis on diversity and inclusion in tech recruiting.
That's awesome. And I can say that these recruiters are such a great group of people. My past life, I was in San Francisco for the last 10 years, and my last 5 years of my career before I started the Intern Hustle, I was working with a lot of the people leaders at all of the top tech companies. So probably a lot of the same people that you're going to get to interface with. And they are a great creative group of people. Them and, the finance teams at all these tech companies really do care about their people. And I think that's what makes the tech industry, especially in San Francisco, such a unique and fun one to be a part of is the culture that they provide. So I think, you're going to have a great experience as an intern with them this summer. And I'm excited to check in with you after the summer and just hear how it went and what you learned and
sure, all
of that as well. Talking about, how you got this internship, which was, by your own creation of what you built and people seeing, all of that. Covintern is something that you created. So covintern.com is the website. And I actually discovered you because of this website. And, I was on LinkedIn. I, tend to look at internship hashtags and all the things given what I do for a living. And I saw one of your posts come up, and I think it had over like 5,000 comments. I mean, it's crazy
Yeah.
how this post took off and really went viral, but also not surprising considering, what you're looking to do for students and help students out, as well as the companies that are looking to still try to figure out how they can, feed their talent pipeline and get creative during this time with everything that coronavirus has created for all of us. So I would just love to hear a little bit about, the beginning of Covintern and how you, created it and what really growth looked like in the first couple, weeks, month of your launch with Covintern.
Yeah. So this was obviously a situation where there was a huge first mover advantage. Covintern is not the only, remote internship board out there. I think they've all kind of got their niche and are doing different things a little bit, but there was it was clear to me that I got to get this done quick if we're gonna, if it's gonna be useful, because we're already in the very tail end of the recruiting season with internships, starting next week and the week after mostly, and so I built Covintern over 5 days, I think, of like, kind of, it was what should have been spring break that I was at home, chilling out. 5 days of kind of waking up at 11 and working till 4 a.m. and then rinse and repeat.
The hustle.
And yeah, and then I sent it to my I have a career class, that every freshman takes through the business school.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent it to my professor for that. Still getting used to that. And she was like, "Wow, this is fantastic. You need to share this with a broader audience. Why don't you make a LinkedIn post of it?" And so I did just that and posted it on LinkedIn. And I expected, I can get, 20 or 30, emails or whatever, comments.
Mm-hmm.
And last I checked, it's at like, 500,000 views or something ridiculous. But it was kind of, for the first, I think, like 2 full weeks, it was, exponential growth, doubling every day, in user count. And it's kind of plateaued, now that we're kind of in the crunch time where if you're gonna have an internship,
Yeah.
it's coming now or never. But I really have not done very much, any kind of outreach or marketing for it at all. I think, I put it on Reddit and Hacker News and Product Hunt and did pretty poorly in all 3 of those contexts, but
So
it did
LinkedIn
well
has
on
really
LinkedIn.
been what's spread the growth for you.
Yeah. I think the student community on LinkedIn is large, whereas it's really, more professionals that already have their, aren't looking for internships on those other platforms. But I never did any Facebook ads or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
it's been just me so far doing, honestly, there's not a whole lot to do. It kind of, once it's built, it's kind of run in perpetuity. But as of a couple days ago, I've started putting together a team of some undergrads, both from IU and Claremont McKenna and a couple other places that are going to help me, run some other aspects of it and do a better newsletter kind of email and some other stuff, and try to, where I have, I would say I'm at least a competent software developer. I am not a competent community manager. And so I've found some peers that are going to help me out with that.
It's great. Play into your strengths, which is good.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to create value for people, even as, internships are moving past. There's still a lot of great opportunities coming up. I know Mozilla's got some stuff. I'd kind of like to look at more non-internship opportunities, because
Hmm.
there's still, there's going to be a mismatch in the number of students that want an internship and the number of internships available this summer. And there's not much I can do about that except try to connect students as best I can. But there are a lot of great opportunities that are not internships for students this summer, which
Yep.
I'm sure you're well aware of and probably have discussed in your content.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but things like that we can connect students with, even if they don't find an internship. I'd like to keep creating value in that way.
That's great. That's so great to hear. And obviously too, it's summer internship season is one of the biggest in terms of internship seasons, but there's obviously internships throughout the year as well. And so it'd be interesting to see how that continues on as people are still, trying to figure out remote internships and really what that looks like. I mean, they've always existed, but they're really being pushed to the forefront now, obviously, given
Hmm.
coronavirus. And I will say, I'm on a ton of different forums and things like that. And there's still today tons of students posting that, they're looking for remote internships. What can they be doing? So I'm sharing covintern.com with them. I'm putting the link out there
Yeah.
anytime I see that, because I do think it's a great resource you've pulled together. And oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say another piece on that sharing component is where I have not done a lot of marketing and sharing with people. Sites like the Intern Hustle, an incredible array of um, like university career centers
Mm-hmm.
have picked it up and shared it. Um, those are I've listed most of those on my website on my wadefletcher.com website, and surprisingly, like the European Union coronavirus resources page picked it up and was advertising it, which kind of surprised me because I think one job that somebody without U.S. work authorization can do on that website. But yeah,
Hey,
I'm not complaining, but
yeah.
it's been a good case study of word of mouth marketing too.
Yeah, that's great. And just for those who haven't gone to the website yet and aren't super familiar with it, there's two main things that you find there, right? So one are internship postings for remote opportunities, and those companies are submitting those to your website. And then the second thing is an aggregator of status updates across all the different internship programs, right? So, and you're pulling that from, is it a GitHub repository? Is
Yeah, so
that
there's a
correct?
really cool that hiring 2020 GitHub repository that's been shared around a lot,
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of crowdsourcing the status of various internships, where I don't think a lot of companies want to announce, hello, and in this press release we've canceled our internship program,
Right.
but obviously they're going to email the candidates, and once somebody receives one of those emails, anybody in the world can go in and update that list to say, hey, my thing's been canceled, um,
Right.
and it'll be approved and added. And I have no involvement in maintaining that data. I'm just pulling it and displaying it in a
Pulling it,
nice way.
right.
But
It
I
is a
think
very
that's
nice way to display it. And I think
an equally cool initiative.
fascinating. Yeah, very, very cool. And actually, I did post about hiring 2020, the Twitter feed that they had going with all of that information on one of the videos I did in the description, because I thought it was a really cool way. It was early on in the outbreak, and people were really trying to figure out like what was going to happen to their internship. And so I had linked to that. So I do think it's great that someone has taken the time to put that together, and that you're then able to pull it in so that it's like side by side with the remote opportunities, because just displaying it in the way that you have, is so easy for someone to filter through and see the status of different companies and what may be going on as the kind of overall internship landscape. So
Hmm.
very, very cool to see all of that. I guess, just being a student yourself, having, kind of gone through this to figure out what am I going to do for an internship this summer and all of that. This obviously worked out great for you, which is so cool because you put in so much work to make this happen, and you really took, the time, like you said, to get first to market on some of this. What advice would you have for students who are still looking for internships right now, and just how to best position themselves with the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah. So I would say, taking from my experience, I guess with both internships, I have not, um, I have not ever asked for an internship. It's more been along the lines of, the normal informational interview kind of deal.
Mhm.
And then, they tell me about some project they're working on. I realize I can contribute to that in this way. And that then leads to them thinking, how can we get him here to contribute to that? And so I guess I would say, don't, think about it as you're selling. Yeah, you're selling yourself and how you can help their company, but don't think about that in terms of, I want an internship. Think of it as, I want to contribute to this product, and let them arrive at, let's give them an internship. Because I mean, even, not obviously, I'm only taking an internship this summer, but I've gotten like legitimate job offers from people I've talked to about Covintern, which is crazy to me because I'm not qualified for any of them. But I mean, I don't know. I'm always hesitant to ask people for things, and that, I might be a little over. I don't know. I might be askew in that regard, but I don't like to ask people for favors. I like to tell them what I can do for them.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I mean, it's all about showing what value you can add to a company. And that's, a lot of what I talk to people about is really like you have to be able to connect the dots. You have to like kind of do your research on them, see what their pain points are, what they might need help with, or things that you could help them improve that they haven't even thought about yet, right? And then really demonstrate that just through how you build relationship with them and conversation and things. So I think that's great advice and super in line with what I talk to students about at the Intern Hustle. So I think that's great. And I know, with all of this, Covintern is something cool that you've recently created and it's getting a lot of traction, but it's also not your first kind of step into entrepreneurship. You've done this before. I think 2017 is when you launched ScoreTwo Media. And, you even brought it up earlier. You got an award for that. What was it? The 2019 South Carolina Young Entrepreneur Award, which is super cool. So tell me a little bit about ScoreTwo Media.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, we have my high school, which is the Northeast High School in Columbia, South Carolina, has an awesome broadcast media program that's, consistently winning. I don't know, not consistently, but we've won a couple in the last 2 or 3 years, Pacemaker Awards,
Mm-hmm.
which is, not a well-known thing, but is called the Pulitzer Prize for high school journalists. So, 5 or 6 schools in the country, I think, win one. And anyway, we got this fantastic program, and I, developed all these skills in, creating digital content and creating video and photo, and we host a our school hosts a big basketball tournament every year that flies in students and schools from across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Its big claim to fame is the when Zion Williamson, really the first time he kind of came into his element with the dunks and everything, was at this tournament. And if you watch any Zion Williamson highlight reel from high school, you'll absolutely see our school's high school gym, and probably me in the background with a camera. But
There you go. 15 seconds of fame.
yeah, a friend of mine and I came up with this idea that instead of volunteering for, the school's media stuff at this big tournament, what if we could get the individual teams to hire us to do, photo and video specific to their team? So we started this ScoreTwo, kind of label to advertise ourselves for that. But nobody wanted it, so it didn't go anywhere. And he didn't continue with me going forward. But I then, kind of took the brand and the idea and thought about how I could apply it to other contexts. And the big kind of thing, if you ask me what ScoreTwo did and to some extent does, it's not limited to this, but the big thing is when you look at a college team or an NFL sports team, they often have a media crew that travels with them that produces awesome YouTube content,
Mm-hmm.
and social media content and everything for, hype videos for their games and everything. And we thought about, why can't a high school with the athletic funding and means to do something like this, what they derive all the same benefits from having that in place that a university or a pro team does. And so I've got, I went out and secured contracts with a couple of local private schools to do this. Well, not just private, just mostly private schools, but schools with means
The budget.
to take something like this. Yeah. And then hired a bunch of my friends from this program at school that had these same, media production skills to be assigned to a team and would ride on the team bus and go to team practices and just document what they were doing and produce these, videos for the school's YouTube channels and for them to play on the, on the news show before a big game or whatever else.
Yeah.
And did well in that. Also had some random work with other athletic organizations doing like, the state track meet and stuff. And then a few kind of random gig kind of things where we did, a political campaign ad and stuff like that. But that was, I say was just because it kind of didn't well, I'll talk about that in a second. But while I was doing that, I was named the South Carolina 2019 Young Entrepreneur of the Year for that work. I was nominated by my high school economics teacher, and went to the state house and got recognized for that, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great, and great that you had such a nice relationship with your, economics teacher who's like wanting to nominate you for something like that. It's amazing.
Right. So what ended up happening with ScoreTwo was just that I tried to keep, I still had contracts through this year to continue doing that media coverage, and it worked sort of well this year to manage those teams from, obviously now I'm in Indiana, to manage those teams back in South Carolina, but it just ended up being more stress than I really wanted to handle. So the individuals that want to continue, obviously they've gotten older and some of them are ready to graduate now, but those that want to continue doing it, I'm just helping them get those same contracts, with the school so they can keep doing it themselves.
That's great.
And they maintain that, but I'm kind of stepping back from that. The media production whole deal was something I did in high school, but not really something I'm interested in as a career. And I just, it didn't make sense for me to continue doing it. But I'm trying to set those that still want to up to do it the best they can.
That's great. I mean, it sounds overall like, even though it's not something you're taking forward for yourself, it sounds like it was just great creative, outlet for you, as well as like startup business experience. I mean, you launched a business, which in high school, which is a pretty cool thing. I guess one, final question I have on that for you, just for the people watching, is if someone out there, high school or college, is thinking about starting a business, what's one piece of advice you would have for them?
So I think a lot of, especially with, maybe not especially, but I know with my generation, when we think of entrepreneurs, a lot of what we think of is the Steve Jobs and the, Evan Spiegel or whoever else, and the like really global world changing entrepreneurs that, go on to become billionaires. But I don't like how we get caught up in this, kind of sexy entrepreneurship where, I know I've got one of my closest friends, her dad sells garage door openers and attic ladders, but has like the distribution contracts for all the Southeast to sell these, essential home products that are, there's at least one of each of these things in every house, and is, making millions and is as successful as many other entrepreneurs, but it's not one of those,
right,
kind of sexy, world changing, I invented this crazy new product, I invented this app, whatever entrepreneurs. And so I would just say, don't limit. I mean, even me doing, you know, video production is not a world changing thing. Don't think you have to be doing something too special to be an entrepreneur. Um, you just, you know, need to address a need, and you know, that can be as simple as get the distribution contract for, you know, a product that's not available in your area, you know, for whatever else.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are doing really well for themselves that are not in the public eye, and not, you know, doing one of those the sexy entrepreneurship things.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I mean, what you even mentioned is address a need. And you did that with Covintern even, right? Like addressing a need of what's essential right now out of all the things that are going on, like what do we really need to focus on and help people with? And so I think that's great advice, because it's not always about the big unicorn, you know, billion-dollar valuation tech companies and what they're trying to create. There's so many, like you said, little, you know, businesses around the world that are doing really great things that just don't have all the publicity. So I think that's great advice to offer people. Okay, so fun questions that I just want to kind of wrap up with. You know, we've gone through all the things I really wanted to get out of you today with your internship experience and Covintern and all of that. So the first one I have for you is, now that you've completed your freshman year at Indiana, you have, right? Final exams are done. Okay.
Yep.
So now that you've completed this first year, if you could go back and give yourself advice as an incoming college freshman, now that you've had a whole year under your belt, what would it be?
So what I've told my high school friends that are going to college: take some time to really think about, you know, what are your fun facts about yourself? What are your two truths and a lie? Because I cannot count the number of times, you know, in your time in college orientation, and, you know, in your first week at orientation, at, you know, registration, at, you know, what all the initial starting college experiences you go to, somebody's going to say, you know, okay, we're going to do this icebreaker game and play two truths and a lie, or, you know, everybody go around and share where you're from and a fun fact about yourself. And I was not prepared to, you know, I feel kind of hypocritical saying it, doing this, but I don't think of myself as someone who shares a lot. Um, and so I've told them to, like, sit down and think about, you know, what is your fun fact that puts forward your most friendly and interesting step. Um, my fun fact is that because there is a Chick-fil-A adjacent to my high school, and on my way to work last summer, I consumed so much Chick-fil-A in the years 2018 and 2019, and acquired so many points through the app, that I got an invitation to come tour the headquarters as one of their, like, valued customers, because I'd eaten too much fast food.
That's
Um,
incredible.
and that, you know, like I said, that's my fun fact. And I suggest to kids that, you know, figure out what your fun fact is that you can share with people.
That's awesome. And pretty similar to my final question I'm going to ask for you. But before we get to that, I'd love to know, just what is a favorite memory from your freshman year at Indiana? I love these birds you have. It's like a symphony of birds behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sitting here in my backyard. Favorite memory. The weekend, I think right before my birthday, I went to I went skiing with a bunch of guys from my hall, and went to my roommate's house in Cincinnati, and we just had a fantastic time, fantastic adventures that weekend. That were I think a lot of people, when you go to college, you think about a lot of, like, oh, we're gonna travel to the, like, adjacent big cities and stuff, and a lot of that kind of doesn't happen once tests and exams and quizzes start
Sure.
happening. But we did that, and that was a really awesome experience to
That's
kind of
cool.
be. That was my first road. I mean, we drove 4 or 5 hours. That was my first road trip kind of deal to do like that. So
Very cool. All right. Final question I have for you. I ask everybody I talk to is, and kind of in line with what you were saying with the fun fact, but maybe a little different. So I always say, what's your party trick? And fun fact about my company is my LLC is actually called Party Trick LLC. because I believe so strongly in, having a personal brand. And really the way I define a party trick is, something that makes you unique and how you stand out, what people recognize you for, and something that kind of carries over both personally and professionally that really makes you fun and unique. So what would you say your party trick is?
Ooh.
Doesn't have to be, the college party trick. Like, I'm not talking keg stands.
Right.
I mean, if you're like able to hold yourself up in a handstand on a keg, that's pretty impressive. But
No. I honestly don't know.
And you know what? If you don't have one right now, that's okay.
Yeah, I really.
It's going to be my homework. My challenge for you, though, is to think about it. Honestly, think about it. Think about your personal brand, and a little bit of what you were saying with, what you told the high school students to think about with like just a fun fact. I think it's an important thing for people to just start developing personal brand in a way that like people remember them for, right? And so there's got to be, and I'm sure you sit down and just interview some family and friends and ask them about, what they see as your strengths and different things like that, or fun quirks, anything like that. Then you can start to kind of really piece it together. I mean, if people follow along on, my journey in the intern hustle story, there's actually a blurb on my website about party trick and why I think it's an important thing. But mine is actually a one-arm push-up, and it's something that I've done in boardrooms. I've done at conferences on stage. Like, it's not just a personal party trick. It's definitely become part of my professional image and brand as well, which is fun. It gets everyone excited in the room because they don't really believe that I can do it. And it turns out to be a whole fun storyline for everyone. So anyways, I encourage you to think about it. Just have something that you can, next time we chat, when I check in with you to figure out how this internship went this summer.
Yeah.
You also come back to me with maybe what your party trick is.
Sure.
Okay. So anything else that you want to tell people watching this video where they can find, more information about what you're working on, or Covintern, obviously covintern.com. And I'll link to that in the description below this video as well, so that people can find that if they're interested. But anything else you'd like to share with people about how they can find you or information on what you're working on?
Sure. Yeah. So, obviously, like you said, covintern.com. I have wadefletcher.com for my own,
Great.
kind of personal brand portfolio kind of stuff. If you're a university student interested in, maybe this kind of isn't an indefinite offer, because I've kind of given myself an expiration date by calling it Covintern. But if you're a university student that, like we said, find a way you can help somebody. If you can help me with Covintern, somehow send me an email at wade@covintern.com. And I can, if there's a fit for you with something we're working on, like I said, I'm kind of establishing a greater organization to fill in what I'm not able to do. And, if you can run a Twitter account, or, can write newsletter emails or whatever, you send me an email and let me know how you can help, and we can talk about that. Honestly, I mean, at the bottom of my website, I've got a little blurb that's like, if you want to work on a project, or you want, me to look at something you're doing, or anything at all, I would really welcome it. I mean, anybody that's got a fun, something fun you're building, I'd love to see it and see how I can contribute. But
that's great. Great offer to collaborate and just kind of, help people out, which I love to hear. And I think a lot of people are going to be excited to watch this and learn more about Covintern if they haven't already, and just the opportunities, plus just follow your journey and what you're working on in the future, because you've obviously got a very bright path ahead. So I want to just thank you for your time today and chatting with me, and your willingness to jump on right after your finals ended. I'm sure you'd rather be doing a bunch of other things right now, but thank you for joining me, and really best of luck to you with your internship this summer. Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, thank you. Best of luck to you as well.
Thank you.